Hi, hello, agents. Today we have Joe Whitesel. He is the president and founder of Northwest Commercial Lending, and he has over 17 years in the financial and mortgage industry. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. So let's start off in the beginning because I know you didn't actually start in real estate. So where did you start and how'd you pivot?
Wow, that's a great. My background, yes, I didn't get start off in real estate. I didn't even probably know how to spell real estate when I got into this, right? My background, my late father, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, used to be the head athletic trainer for the Seattle Seahawks. And so I grew up in a locker room, basically, and really learned how to sell and kind of hustle, working around NFL football players and coaches and scouts and the front office. And my dad was there for 23 years. And so when you grow up in that organization, you start off as a ball boy and then you kind of work your way up. And I ended up in the scouting department, worked 7 years on and off in scouting, worked for the Seahawks and the New Orleans Saints. And then as I got older, the money wasn't good for us lower guys. And I decided, hey, I'm going to come home, take care of life. And my best friend said, hey, you need to come work for this up and coming mortgage company in Kirkland. And I decided, hey, what the heck? Let's try this out. And 21 years later, here I am, selling mortgages and loving this thing and doing what I do every single day, because what I learned in the NFL, in that locker room, I have basically brought it into my company, and it has taught us so many values and coaching. And one of my favorite things to do is coach. And we love to coach our clients, our broker agents, everyone on how to sell an apartment loan, how to sell a commercial loan, how to buy. That's the biggest thing right now, especially when we have a lot of new investors getting out of the 1 to 4 unit arena and graduating into the 5+ unit. And I love to coach these people on how it's properly done. It's not about your credit. It's not about your income. We need to focus on the property, right? And so the background that I got from my dad and all these guys gives me this, excitement to go out and do the same thing, and do it in a different arena. And now we're coaching people. We truly are. We're coaching NFL players, doctors, lawyers, attorneys, realtors. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So that's kind of a little background of who I am, and got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, now Northwest Commercial Lending's 11 years, 11+ years going strong, and it's been an adventure, but it's been an awesome adventure to say the least.
Yeah, when you are one of our preferred lenders inside our Addicted to ROI group with all of our investors, and you're definitely, someone that is talked about all the time, and you do have the heart of a coach and of a teacher, and they love working with you. So I'm so happy to bring you on so that you can tell all of these other agents, bring your knowledge and share that as well.
Yeah, you can kind of see in my background, all my kind of growing up in that, I love showing, what my past was, and these guys all kind of built me in some ways. And so it's been fun.
Yeah,
A
and
lot of cool stories.
for all of these, you were talking about the NFL players and
Yeah.
doctors, people that are really high earners, to learn how to actually use their money wisely and build wealth, because we hear all those stories about NFL players that just blow all their money and end up broke. And I find it so encouraging and so wonderful to hear things like this.
Yeah.
People
We
that
did
are
an event. We did an event this year for the Seahawks at a steakhouse here in Bellevue, and we had 23 current players there, teaching them, educating them, saying, hey, here's a new opportunity. This is how, you get started. And we do a lot of the meetups with Jennifer, and in the past, of course, COVID kind of slowed that down. But
Mhm.
again, yeah, we love helping out, and that's something that we give back. We do it for free, right? So it's something that we want to educate everyone.
Yeah. So are you an investor yourself? Are you an active investor?
I am. I jumped into the multifamily, and we also have bought a short term rental. Um,
All
my
there in
wife
state or
not so we bought an 8 unit in San Antonio,
okay.
and it's going well. It was a gut job, and yeah, if my wife saw the property when I went and did my site visit, I don't think she probably would have gone with it. But it's doing awesome now. We've rehabbed six. We're almost done with 6 out of the 8 units. It's taken longer than we expected, a little bit over a year now. And just because, as we all know, costs have gone up. Um, Labor is hard to find, and so we've had to be patient. I learned about the eviction process. I talk about it all the time. We educate people about it all the time, but until you get your feet in the fire and you learn, literally by doing it, it was a good experience, and kind of opened my eyes to more of how to run the building, right? Even with my property manager. Um, and so that's been an awesome experience. We've taken our 1 bedrooms in San Antonio that were getting 550. We've taken them from 550 to 975, and then we've taken our studios from 450 to 775. So yeah, it's we're excited. We're gonna hold on to it and let this thing work. And then my wife and I, my wife's from Michigan, and so we bought a house, a short-term rental house out in South Haven, Michigan, which is a beach town off of Lake Michigan, and we just rehabbed that, and we're getting ready to put that on the market for the spring and summer next year for a short term.
Oh,
So
that's luck. Yeah, there's some great markets in Michigan, and we get a few listings occasionally into our deal list in the inner circle for our investors as well, around the lake. You know.
yeah, it's pretty. I mean, I'm a Seattle guy, and before I met my wife, I was like, I don't know anything about Michigan, right? And then she took me out, and I'm like, are we in Florida? Like, what's going on here? White sandy beaches, this crystal blue water. What's this all about? And it's that those beach towns are so unique, right? Because there's no hotels, and so the Airbnb and short-term rentals is a huge market because we're a block off from the beach. So you could load up and just walk down to the beach with your wagon, right? Where the hotels are across the freeway, and it's a total different market. So, and that's one thing we're trying to still learn about as well as lenders and brokers, and how are these banks, underwriting short-term rentals. I mean, we're starting to see a ton of short-term deals come across our, like, an 8 unit apartment complex, but all it is short-term rentals
Mhm.
because it's in a beach town. And so, but it's seasonal, right? And so the banks don't like it. So it's things that those type of things we're learning every day on the go.
Sure. Yeah, I know. I love that. Well, let's talk a little bit about commercial. So, how has commercial lending changed just in the past decade?
Well, that's a pretty wild question because but I think the biggest thing is, of course, in the last decade the rates have come down, right? Which have now made it um easier for buyers to get into properties, right? Because you can come in with less down when you have a lower interest rate, right?
Mhm.
Um, I want to say the last 10 years, everyone was jumping on this, the hot thing out there was the fix and flips, and, the find the ugly house, fix it up, either
The
sell it or, yeah. And
burrs and the fix and flips.
yeah, and so now that kind of market has kind of died down a little bit, or I don't know how, because I'm not in that market, but the multifamily market is kind of like the hot new car, right? People are out there, like their buddies are talking about it. And so you're starting to hear more people talk about it. There's not as many properties, right, as there are single family homes. And
Mhm.
so as we talked earlier today, when you and I, before we got on, you know, the demand is up, but we don't have as many properties for sale. And so it kind of crumbles the market a little bit because there's just way more buyers than there is stuff on the market. And so, but the interest rates have been steady. And, I was at our commercial mortgage broker conference a week ago in Las Vegas, and all these guys up there, they're talking about forecasting and talking about interest rates, just keep on talking like we're still historically low interest rates. Even though we're in the fours and in the fives, these are still unbelievable rates. We got spoiled the last couple of years with really low rates. So now everyone's mindset is, I need 3.5 or 4%, right?
Right.
Because that's
And
what they're used to.
especially with, the newer investors that came in just in the past few years, because that was their norm. That's what they expected. And then with these interest rates that go up, they're all of a sudden, oh, that's too high. Yeah, it's
Yeah, this is a great thing that I bring up about interest rates. It's a comment that Cody Touche, as everyone knows Cody, made, and I follow this comment and I preach it too. You don't marry the interest rate; you marry the property, right? And especially in our industry, when you're buying an apartment, um, 95 to maybe even higher, 98% of our loans have prepayment penalties, right? And so it really makes you set goals when you're looking at properties. I'm a firm believer about goal setting, right? Because when you buy an apartment, you could really screw up by your initial loan that you go into. And what I mean by going into your initial loan is, if you're trying to, get rents up, put a little lipstick on the property, get new tenant base, and then want to refinance in 2 years and capitalize your new rents and your value going up and maybe the interest rates coming down. Well, we don't want to put you in a 5 or 7 or 10-year fixed product because they all come with big prepayment penalties. And so we want to educate these clients about interest rates and how to get into the deals, because it could be costly. I mean, I had a client, that bought a property out in the Seattle market 18 months ago or 2 years ago. And he's like, hey, I don't want to go a bridge loan. I'm going to go with this credit union. They're giving me a 4%, but it had a step down prepay, right? And his goals was to refinance after 2 years. And I tried to sell him a bridge loan, but he, wanted to go. Well, after the 2 years, he came back to me. Now his loan cost him a 3% prepayment penalty, right? And the rate was pretty much the same as when, the exit strategy at the end of the day. And so we always want to talk to people before they get locked into a rate. What are your goals? Because these rates do fluctuate every single month. I mean, 30 days ago, the rates were half a point lower than they are now. Now the treasuries are back up, right? And so it's an interesting time, to say the least.
Yeah, and the exit strategies are so incredibly important, and especially to have more than one. And when you're getting into really any size investment, but especially on these larger apartment complexes and things like that, yeah, you have to look at the entire picture and really analyze it with all of those in place and calculate everything. So it's
Yeah,
so
and that's something that we talk to our broker agents about all the time, because they're selling these properties, right? And or bringing these properties to the buyers. So we want everyone to be like, okay, what's the outlook of this deal? Does it need rehab? Does it need, in 5 years, what if it needs a new roof? Are you going to come out of your own pocket with $100,000 to replace a roof, or do you know that your value is going to go up and we could pull cash out to cover that cost? Because we don't have second mortgages. in the commercial lending. And so that's a really important thing. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac allow secondary financing, but those are the only ones. And so got to, like you said, you got to really look at your full future of the property.
Right. Right. And then, what are the advantages in commercial lending as opposed to, the normal conventional loans and conventional lending?
Yeah. So commercial lending, of course, is a wide variety of products. When you're buying 1 to 4 unit single family, you have Fannie Mae, you have FHA, VA, you have your set lenders, and it's all about your income, right? 5 units and above, office, retail, self storage. Every single bank is different. Every bank sells similar product and rate, but how they get to that rate or how they get to that loan to value in underwriting is completely different by every bank. There's no standard set underwriting guidelines across the board. So commercial lending, for 5 units and above, can get, for a first time buyer, could get kind of scary, because it's not just like walking into your Bank of America or going to a Caliber Home Loans or Finance of America saying, hey, I got a 5 unit, I want to buy this property. People could spin their wheels for days. So there's so many different products, so many different ways to get into deals. And so I feel you're not handcuffed. We honestly can say, for one deal, we could have 10 no's and 10 yeses, because everyone underwrites different.
Right. Yeah. And with that, it's funny because I hear so many of these experienced investors that say, "Oh, I wish I would have jumped into commercial sooner." Right? I wish I would have explored, commercial financing and commercial buildings and things sooner than I did, because I was really stuck on, conventional financing and getting those, interest rates that are lower and fixed for 30 years. But there is, it's a different world. It opens up, when you're looking at investing in both things, and building and scaling.
Yeah, and we don't have 30-year fixes in our industry. So it really, you really have to pay attention to your loan and know what you're doing, because people, like right now, if they get into a 5-year fix at 5.5%, and then all of a sudden rates come down next year, and they don't know that they have a prepayment penalty, and rates get down to 3.5, let's say, well, they might have a 4% prepayment penalty, right? And so it's really educating these people about what they're buying and what their rate is and what's behind their rate. It's just not, oh, here's your rate, let's go to closing, so
Yeah.
which happens a lot. That's why people get in trouble.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Again, trying to make sure you analyze and know everything you can up front when you're
Yeah.
going deals, and really, as agents, trying to teach and coach your clients kind of about that, and try and guide them as much as possible, for sure.
Agree 100%.
So in your business, you said you work with over 100 different lenders. So let's talk about, the advantages of sending, clients to you as a broker, rather than having them go straight to a bank or, a lender for commercial.
It's a great question. We get that all the time. In our industry, everything is as I kind of mentioned just a bit ago, every bank's different, right? And so every loan doesn't fit with every single bank. And so the advantages of working, with a group like Northwest Commercial Lending or another brokerage, is we underwrite our deals in-house. We have the guidelines of every single lender that we work with. And so if you bring us a deal in a certain market, we're going to know how to place that deal. And then we're going to underwrite the deal to those specific guidelines to see if they work. We're not a broker that just packages up a deal and slingshots it out to every single bank and let them come back and say yes or no. That really doesn't do us any good because it slows the process down. These bankers and lenders are so busy. They want complete packages. And so what we really want to underwrite the deal and let our borrower understand before we take it out to the open market, to the lenders that it worked with, that, hey, these are the specific guidelines that this property fits. A lot of people come to us with a purchase and sale agreement and say, I want 20% down. And then we have to be the bad guy and say, well, unfortunately, it doesn't work with 20%. You need to come in with 40%, right? And they've already got earnest money over at escrow. They have a signed contract. They're past their earnest money due date or whatever. And so then that's when we have to either try to unravel a deal or flip them into a hard money loan. And so we preview a lot of deals for broker agents as well. A lot of our commercial real estate agents, they bring us deals and say, hey, can you cash flow this deal for us? Let us know what the underwriting is going to look like in this deal because I have 5 potential buyers, right? And I think that saves a lot of people's time because we're seeing a lot of deals come across our desk. And I mentioned this to you earlier, where people are still underwriting at a 3.5% interest rate or a 4% interest rate. And they come to me, excuse me, and they say, hey, Joe, this deal works. This deal is great. And I'm like, well, it did a year ago, but right now, if you put a 5% or a 5.5% in there, now, your 30% that you wanted to come in with goes down to 40% you need to come in with. And so we want to get a lot of that work done before people get into a contract. We hear from a lot of buyers, or a lot of people say, oh, you don't need a pre-approval letter in commercial real estate. We hear that all the time. And I say that's wrong. Pre-approving a deal is the most important thing. I mean, because it's not about your income and your credit, right? It's about the property. And so we want to make sure the property works. And if the property doesn't work for your down payment requirement, then it's going to be the same with any other bank or any other lender. And so we do a lot of upfront investigating in the property.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Well, we always hear as investors, we hear, well, you need to build a relationship, with these commercial banks, and they're all about relationships, and that's how you get the good rates. So when you're working with, a company like yours that's a brokerage, how does that fit in? Is it that you have these relationships, and so it's beneficial to work with you that way, and then you're kind of negotiating these rates, or how does it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing that you bring up. We don't get paid by these banks. So we're a true broker. We have to charge a broker fee, and that's standard across the industry. And so what these banks beg for our business because we bring them volume, right? So they're going to give us drop dead interest rates. They're going to lower their fees. They're going to treat us different than someone coming off the street, bringing them a deal, because we bring them, like, for one instance, I have one bank that we do a lot of nationwide stuff with that in the last 4 years, we've closed 70 something deals with, right? We don't get paid by them. I wish we did, but they give us great interest rates, great. We know their underwriting guidelines. They lower their fees, and they just do a great job for us because, we bring them volume. We're not a one-off deal. A lot of banks want continue business, right? So if a borrower has a resource and does, let's say, 5 to 7 deals a year somehow, or has a big portfolio and does all their stuff with one bank, well, of course they're going to get special treatment and all that. But it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Not every single deal fits with all these banks, right? I tell my clients all the time, Chase, they're great. I love working with Chase, but Chase, even though they have a branch in Spokane, Washington, they're not doing an apartment loan in Spokane, right? So all these banks have their perimeters, their guidelines, where they're lending, um, and so we know all those little caveats with these banks, and the more business we bring, the better our rates get.
Right.
And underwriting, we know how to get through if there's an issue that comes up, right? Because we have a direct team that we're working with constantly.
Yeah, and I think, the one of the biggest advantages really to working with you is it saves time. It's the investor is not having to go out there to multiple banks and, building these relationships. It's really just building a relationship with you and having, your resources and just such time saving for people.
I couldn't agree more. We see deals that come across our desk that have 2 weeks left on a 60-day purchase and sale agreement, right? And I'm like, well, what's wrong with the property? And they're like, oh, I can't find the right lender. And I'm like, well, here's three, right? And there's a lot of banks and credit unions and wholesale lenders and banks that you might be driving down the street and see them and you're like, oh my God, they do apartment loans, right? Because you don't hear these lenders advertised. It's not on the news. It's a total different industry than the residential. That's all you hear about. Residential rates, residential this, bank this. Well, we don't have that. So it's a unique industry where these bankers get creative too, because they want your business, right? And so every bank's different. And so that's what's so unique with us, is that we put it out and then we give our client an opportunity. Maybe one of our clients says, I've worked with this bank before, I'm never doing a loan with them again. Okay. Even though I have a great experience with them, okay, we're putting you off to the side. Here's B, C, D, right? Sometimes there's people bring us deals and there's only one bank, right? And you're kind of like, hey man, this is it. If you want this deal, we put it in front of 25 different banks and one came back, right? So it's a unique industry to be honest.
Sure. All right. Well, you've talked about your business and how it has grown, and you're also working, coaching people along. So what is your future goals for your company?
Oh, well, we're 11 years in at North. Well, this will be going on 12 years at Northwest Commercial Lending. And so, of course, everyone has a plan, but I don't know what that plan is, because I mean, we're staying busy, right? And we enjoy what we're doing. Our goal is to work more with broker agents,
Okay.
teach and educate, because it's only going to make everyone's jobs easier when you can go out and educate people, and that will bring better deals, right? We just want to be more of a resource to everyone out there, and let them know that buying an apartment, or an office building or self-storage, I mean, there's more than just apartments, right?
Sure.
Everyone talks about apartments. You got mobile home parks, self-storage, office, retail, strip malls. They're all coming back, right? Hotels. But it's kind of getting that fear out of the buyer's head, right? Sometimes buying an apartment's easier than buying a house, right? It just depends on the property, the lender you're working with, and the process. And so we just want to keep selling that to everyone out there, that this is a great time to buy. Even with the interest rates high, we're putting a lot of people in different products because we know the interest rates are going to come down. It's a cycle. Okay. Are they going to be in the low twos or high twos again? I don't think so. But we can educate people on how to get into properties, how to buy the ugly one, fix it up, how to use hard money safe, right? Bridge financing safe. So those are things that we want to get out to these people so we could generate more business.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, you heard him. He wants to work with more broker agents. So, well, where can they find you?
We're in Kirkland, Washington. I know we're nationwide. That's the awesome thing is we're just not doing stuff in Washington. So we're all over the place. We follow our clients. Some of our banks that are on the West Coast can go nationwide as long as their client lives in the bank footprint. So that's a unique thing. We could use 30-year amortizations back east where a lot of those banks use 20 and 25-year AMs. And so you can find me at Joe at nwclending.com. And our website is nwclending.com as well. We have info at nwclending.com as well. And I have a great team here, and I mean that. It's just not me. I couldn't do this all by myself. We started this with a vision to help people out and grow this book of business, and we're kicking butt. But we have a great team of loan officers, an awesome loan coordinator, and we're here to help. And we just, like I said earlier, we want to add a value to you guys. So we appreciate the time.